Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on Gladiator Disc Golf. Today we're going to be focusing on the most important part of every disc golfer's game, putting. Okay, there's really two types of putters. You have beaded putters and beadless putters. Now if you've watched any of my previous videos, I have been putting for a long time with the Millennium Omegas, both Super Soft and Delta T plastic. Those are what we would call beadless putters, meaning they don't have a bead like these AVRs here. And it's really not that one is better than the other in terms of flight and consistency, at least from my experience, but it's more of what's comfortable in the hand. And for the longest time, for pretty much for 2 full years of playing disc golf, I never liked beaded putters. They just always felt bulky in the hand. But recently, after having putted with the Omegas and struggling a little bit with those, I've started putting with some beaded putters, these James Conrad AVRs especially, and they have just been feeling really good in the hand, and that bead there has definitely added to that comfort. So the first thing that you need to focus on when looking for a putter and deciding which putter you want to use is comfort. Okay, it doesn't matter what Paul McBeth uses, it doesn't matter what Simon Lizotte uses or any of these other pros, Nate Sexton. It matters what's comfortable to you, because what's comfortable to them may not be comfortable to you. The next thing is finding a stroke and some sort of habit and ritual, almost you might want to say, that is comfortable to you. Okay, when we throw, when you see a bunch of people driving off a tee, for the most part, their forms are all pretty similar. Everybody's reaching back. Everybody's using their hips to power through on the throw. But with putting, everybody has a completely different form because everybody has a different comfort level. For example, Josh Anthon kind of like putts from up here, almost like in the middle of his chest, which for a lot of people, that's uncomfortable. But for Josh Anthon, it's comfortable. Nate Perkins kind of comes right into the gut here, and same with Simon Lizotte, and they kind of just pop out right from their stomach. Paul McBeth and Ricky Wysocki a little bit too kind of come more down to the hip, okay? And that's a comfort level for them. And then you have guys like James Conrad, who with his really long, lanky body comes all the way down basically to his kneecap and then comes up. And what you're realizing, or what you should realize, is each of those guys, and all the female disc golfers too, Paige Pierce brings it above her head and then comes down. They're all doing what is comfortable to them. And so for us, it's very important that we do what's comfortable for us as well. Yes, we want to imitate Paul McBeth because it works. Yes, we want to imitate Paige Pierce because it works, because they do really well. But what works for them doesn't always work for you and I. So we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for us. And then the third thing is just practice it. Get comfortable. Find a putter that you're comfortable with in the hand, that you feel confident in no matter where you're holding it. And then just practice. Learn everything you can about the putter. Some people use understable putters because they want a straight flight. Some people use more overstable putters because they want a consistent fade at the end, especially for when they're putting from long distance. They can sort of hook it out wide. You want to find which angle you like to putt on. I prefer to putt on a flat plane because that limits how much the wind affects my putt. Crosswinds aren't going to affect it as much when it's flat. Headwinds and tailwinds, yes, will still affect my putts, but it's not going to be lifting it up as much or pushing it down as much. So a flat putt is a good putt. However, you do see some people putt on hyzer. So they come down, and when they release, they're releasing it on an angle. It's maybe more natural for their wrist. It's more comfortable for them. It's what they've done. Well, guess what? They've chosen a putter for that, and they have practiced it. They know how to adjust in the wind. So you need to learn how to do those things as well. When you're putting on a hyzer, in this case, if I have a left to right wind, okay, crosswind coming, it's going to be pushing it down this way. So if I'm putting, I'm going to have to put it more in line with the basket because it's not going to hyzer as much because the wind is pushing it the opposite way. If I have a left to right crosswind, a right to left crosswind, that means it's going to be lifting my disc. So I'm going to need to probably putt lower on my release point and a little bit more to the right of the basket than I normally would, because the wind's going to be pushing it up and into the basket. And the last angle that people putt with, and you really don't see this as often, is a little bit of an Anhyzer putt. You see people sort of drop their right shoulder and they'll putt on an Anhyzer. And a couple reasons they may do that. Obviously for comfort and what they feel consistent in, but also they may be using a sort of understable disc, or they may be really using an overstable disc on a long putt to sort of get that flex S-flight for that putter to stay consistently straight. So really, once again, it's up to whatever, it's really up to you, what's most comfortable, what feels good in the hand, and as you're practicing and finding it, what works for you. Is the fifth thing, and that's your stance. You see a lot of people putt with a straddle putt. Then you see a lot of sort of staggered, okay? It doesn't matter if you're doing a spin putt from a staggered or a spin putt from a straddle, it's what is more comfortable to you. However, with that being said, most people who straddle don't do a spin putt, they do more of a push putt, okay? And people who do a staggered putt are doing more of a spin putt. There's pros and cons to both. That spin putt, okay, you're going to get it more power behind it, you're going to get it to fly further, and you're really not going to be missing up and down as often. If you miss with a spin putt, it's normally going to be left or right of the basket. You either pulled it a little too hard or you released a little bit early. With a straddle putt, you're dealing more with, well, you're really just kind of pushing it and lifting it and letting the glide of the disc carry it to the basket. And so that's one of the things, if you're doing more of a push and a straddle putt, you want a lot of glide in your disc. Now, a push putt, you're not missing left to right because you're just going up and down with your putt. But with that being said, you're going to miss high or low when you do miss. Not so much left to right, because it's just going to be a matter of getting it in that sweet spot for it to sort of just settle down into the basket. Both putts work. You see Ricky Wysocki use more of a straddle. Sometimes he's a little bit staggered depending on the terrain. Paul McBeth, Simon Lizotte, a lot of guys do use the sort of staggered putt and do a little bit more spin. Once again, completely up to you. But enough about the different ways to putt and what you need to consider. Let's look at what these putts actually look like. There we go. Alrighty guys, well that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to link and subscribe and comment down below. What putters do you use? What's your go-to style and strategy? And what are some things that you use to sort of help your mental game when you're putting in a tournament and a round? What sort of helps you stay focused? Alrighty guys, until next time, have a great round.